Well, good morning again. And as usual, remember, this is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. As we look at part 2 of the kingdom of heaven, we find in Matthew chapter 13, verse 31 and 32, where it says, "Another parable Jesus put forth to them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field, which indeed is the least of all the seeds. But when it's grown, it's greater than the herbs, and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air can nest in its branches." Now, today's sermon is taken from this parable found here, and the scope of this parable is to show that in the beginning the gospel would be small, but that its latter end would greatly increase. Now, concerning the work of the gospel, I want you to observe the gospel and the new convert. The gospel started out small, and then it spreads. What I mean by that is there was only 12 in the circle of influence that Jesus had there. Now there was a lot of people that followed him, but they only followed him to see the miracles he worked. They only followed him so that they would be fed. They only followed him for what they could get out of it. But there was only 12 in that inner circle, that circle of influence that walked with him and prayed with him and ate with him, all the intimate things that he wants. And now millions are counted under its influence. You know, the new convert is commonly very weak and starts out small, like a mustard seed, which indeed is the least of all the seeds. You saw in the video that, man, they're very, very small. Now, new converts are like lambs. They must be carried. They must be carried by him in his arms. And I'm talking about Jesus. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 11 says, "He will feed his flock like a shepherd. He will gather the lambs with his arm and carry them in his bosom and gently lead them, those who are with young." Now, I want you to notice also, the gospel grows with the Christians. Just as the gospel grew, so do Christians. You see, what I mean by that is gracious habits are more confirmed as the Christian grows. Actions become quickened or made alive. Knowledge is more clean. Faith more confirmed. And by the way, that's the meaning of James chapter 2, verse 17 and 18, which says, "Thus also faith by itself, if it doesn't have works, it's dead." But someone will say, "You have faith and I have works." He says, "Show me your faith without your works, and I'll show you my faith by my works." You see, as we grow, love is more inflamed, more visible. And because of that, we do more for more people. Now, here is a seed growing. The grain of a mustard seed is so very, very small. But it's a seed. It has a desire to grow, like any seed. You see, the fruit of the Spirit comes from a seed planted in the heart. It just takes a little time and a little nurturing. And that isn't just by the individual. It's by those of us more mature in the faith. Then there is the importance of the growth of the gospel. I mean, that you'd say, well, my goodness, that's you're trying to tell us of the importance. We know that. Well, let me share this with you. Without the growth of the gospel, evil prevails. Without the gospel, there'd be no Christianity. Without Christianity, all these other evil religions would grow. You see, Christianity brings about humanity, benevolence, aid to the needy, and so on. That's the difference between those of the Christian faith and those who follow Islam or Allah or Buddha or whatever. There are Christian hospitals, Christian relief organizations, Christian orphanages. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you heard of a Muslim hospital or a Muslim relief organization or a Muslim orphanage? You don't, because they don't really care. And finally, the final result of the gospel. The gospel will eventually cover the entire earth. God has told us that. And when that happens, the time is very, very short before his return. By the way, it just about has completely covered the earth. New converts are like the little mustard seed who will become useful if they're nurtured, that is, discipled, and cared for. And that's where we who are more mature come in. We need to be about nurturing and caring for these little seeds. You know, these little seeds in the new convert, they're like the mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field, which indeed is the least of all the seeds. But when it's grown, it's greater than the herbs. They'll come to a great degree of strength and usefulness like a tree, so that the birds of the air can come and nest in its branches. We must remember, a mustard seed takes years to grow to maturity. Don't expect too much from a brand new convert. They're like that mustard seed. It's going to take time for them to mature. This is also symbolic of the church, by the way, both universal and local. The church is like a great tree, which the fowls of the air do lodge. They roost in it. They nest in it. God's people have access to it for food and rest and shade and shelter, whatever our need is. We need to understand that God is there to supply. In specific person, growing grace will be strong grace and will bring much to pass. Mature Christians must desire to be useful to others as a mustard seed. When it's mature, it is of great usefulness to the birds and to anyone seeking shade. Let me ask you, are you a part of the mustard plant? That may sound strange. But listen, if you're saved, you have the seed planted within you. Deep in your heart, you have the seed of faith. What are you doing about it? There's no better place to grow than in church. However, you need to be present to receive the nutrients in order to grow. You need to be present in Sunday school and Sunday worship, Sunday night services, Wednesday night services, whatever your church needs, whenever your church meets, you need to be there. One of the things that I find in my own congregation is there's people that only come for the 11 o'clock service on Sunday morning. That's it. That 1 hour or less is supposed to carry them through for the whole week. You know, the sad part about it is, as a general rule, they come in, they sit, soak, and sour. They never grow. By the way, you know why the Dead Sea is dead? Why there's no life in it, there's no fish in it? By the way, there aren't any. The reason it's dead is because much comes in, much water, but there's no avenue or outlet for it to leave. And because of that, nothing can grow. The water just evaporates out and leaves all the junk, the salt, and deep, heavy minerals are left. And fish can't grow in it. That's the way a lot of people that consider themselves Christians are. They come and they take in, and they take in, and they take in, but they never put out. And because of that, they just are dead. Well, I hate to end on that downer, so let me say this. If you're not currently already involved in Bible studies and Sunday school and Sunday night services, whenever your church meets, by the way, if you don't have a church home, someplace where your name is on a church roll, you know, a lot of people want to go to a church, but they don't want to become members because then they're held accountable. Well, without being held accountable, I got news for you. You're not going to grow. The Bible tells us iron sharpens iron. I have a couple of men in our congregation that are my accountability partners, and I've given them permission to nail my hide to the wall if they see me messing up. I will not get angry at them when they come to me and say, hey, I don't think you should have said that, or I think you may be going astray a little bit. I've given them permission to do that. You need somebody like that to help you along so that you'll grow. I mean, here I am, the pastor. I'm supposed to be the one leading, and yet I need that help. Well, I trust that you'll find somebody. You'll find a good church. You'll get involved. You'll grow. And man, you're going to see God do awesome things through you. Well, until next week, I'll be looking for you. God bless and amen.